Hi there. This is a video about using an indirect proof, and it's also referred to by using a proof by contradiction. Now, these are the steps that we're going to use to go through a proof by doing an indirect proof. And it's a little bit different than what you're typically used to if you're doing a two-column proof. But the main thing is that we're going to be using a paragraph proof to do this. So it's going to be a little bit different. And let's just go ahead and jump right into a proof and use an indirect proof to prove it. Okay, so in this example, you're given a triangle here, triangle ACB with angles 1 and 2. And you have these two given statements. You're given that AC is congruent to CB. Now I'm going to jump right in here and use that given statement to label my picture, okay, that those two segments are congruent. Now you're given that AD is not congruent to DB. And you want to use this information to prove indirectly that angle 1 is not congruent to angle 2. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to assume temporarily that the prove statement is true. So we're going to take this prove statement, and this is what we're going to write. All right, we're going to write that we assume temporarily that angle 1 is in fact congruent to angle 2, okay? And that's what that means. Assume temporarily that your proof statement is true. So if it's saying that angle 1 is not congruent to angle 2, we're going to say the opposite here, okay? And so let's go ahead and label that on our picture, okay? Now, let's look at this next part here, this next statement here that says complete the proof from your assumption. So we're going to use this assumption and we're going to go backwards. We're going to go in the opposite direction using this prove statement, all right? The opposite of our prove statement as the given to then arrive at the conclusion that is our given statement. So we're going to use this and go backwards to here, okay? Now, the goal is that we want to arrive at a conclusion that contradicts the given statement. So we're going to contradict this. And then we're going to then restate our prove statement. So let's go ahead and from this, okay, from this given information that AC and CB are congruent and angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent, what can we conclude from that? And that's the fact that, knowing, let's write this out, knowing that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 and that AC is congruent to CB, we can conclude that CD is a perpendicular bisector to AB, okay? And what we can do, once we have that information, if we know that these two angles are congruent and that AC is congruent to CB, we know that CD is a perpendicular to AB and it also bisects it. All right, so if we know that that's a bisector, all right, we can conclude that AD is congruent to DB. All right, so we can say by the converse of the perpendicular bisector theorem, all right, that AD is congruent to DB. Now, that's the contradiction, okay? When we assume that this is true, that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, all right, we can conclude that CD is a perpendicular bisector, making AD congruent to DB. That's the contradiction, all right? We are arriving at a statement that contradicts our given statement, all right? So then we say, all right, that, however, this is a contradiction. Contradiction to the the given statement. All right, and you have to write that in your proof. Now, from there, knowing all of this information, all right, once you arrive at a conclusion that contradicts the given statement, then the conclusion that you can draw, and you use these three little dots here to draw your final conclusion about this proof, and this finishes up your indirect proof here. And what you then say is that angle 1 is in fact congruent, or is not congruent to angle 2. All right? So the whole goal here is to use these steps, take your proof statement, say the opposite of that proof statement, go backwards in your proof to contradict your given statement, and then rewrite your proof, statement that you're trying to prove indirectly. So these two things in the end need to match, and that's the goal. So hopefully this makes sense. Please reach out if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks. Bye.